Back to the Action Rabbit introductory screencast series for the Action Rabbit Jackrabbit class plugin. And in the last screencast, we went over how to set up the class table, which we configured to look something like this. And we went over how to set up the weekly class calendar, which looks something like this. And then we stopped here at display and order preferences because I wanted to tie this in with the class filter tool that is available through the Action Rabbit plugin to make this, to put this in a little bit of context. Okay, so the class filter tool is a tool that allows users to filter through classes based on location, class type, class level, etc. However you have your Jackrabbit categories set up. So let's dive into this a little bit so you can see how this configuration in the display preferences here underneath Jackrabbit class in the left-hand vertical navigation of your WordPress dashboard factors in. So here we have just an example theme setup. This is what WordPress looks like when you set it up initially and you opt to use one of their default themes. I think this is theme 2019 or 2020, one of the two, but those are just some default themes that are pre-installed in any WordPress installation. Nothing fancy. But this is what the class filter looks like initially. We have a variety of different steps here, and when Action Rabbit detects there to be more than one location, the very first step in the class filter is to ask the user which location they're wanting to register at. So for the organization that we've used as an example, there are two locations. And previously we'd set these up. We have Aliso Viejo Aquatic Center and we have Marbella Aquatic Center. And we've added some images here and the address and the phone number. Okay, so let's just see what this looks like when we click on Aliso Viejo. We can see that we've jumped over to step number 2 here and we're given a couple different options. So we put this image in here for Junior Guard Prep. We've also mapped Junior Guard to say this. Initially it said JR, and we set it up to say Junior instead of the abbreviation. We did that over here in our class category 1, where we clicked JR Guard Prep. That's what it says inside of Jackrabbit, and we set this up to say Junior. Okay, we also added this image, and we added ages 6 to 10. When we come back here, we see Junior and we see ages 6 to 10. To keep proceeding through the class filter, let's go ahead and click on Swim Team here, and it brings us over to this next step, and it shows us the different levels of Swim Team. Now, see how this says Select Category 2? Go back here, it says Select Category 1. This is more for configuration purposes. You probably don't want to show users select category 1, so we can change this by going back to our display preferences here. Scrolling to the bottom here, it says select category 1. We might say select class type, and then select class level, because that's how this particular organization appears to have used its categories. So let's make sure to save that here. And then when we come back over here, we fire this puppy up again. Here we're selecting a location. We'll go back to Aliso Viejo Aquatic Center. We can see that that's mirrored out here. It says select class type, and we click Swim Team here. It says select class level. All right. So we're going to go ahead and select a certain type of swim team. I don't know, we have advanced, beginner, intermediate. We go here to our category 2. We look at, they had their swim team set up as gold, diamond, bronze, etc. Click bronze. We change this to say beginner swim team. It's a little bit more human-centric, intermediate, advanced. So that's what we're seeing here now. But what I want to direct your attention to is this category, or this step 4. So this is going to be correlated with category 3, the way that we have it set up now. And sometimes organizations may or may not use a particular category. When Action Rabbit detects in the class filter that a category only has one category or no categories, it's going to fire right over that category. So let's take a look what happens when we click, let's say, beginner swim team. We'll see that we're brought right to our weekly ongoing class calendar, and we've kind of just circumvented this step 4 here because it may be a category that isn't really used, or maybe it's for administration or operational purposes. Regardless of the fact, we don't really need this, I would say, for this particular setup. So we don't have to have that there. We can go back into our display preferences. And down at the bottom here, display and order preferences, where we've specified the class type and class level. We have the select category 3. Now we can just turn this off by clicking this eye icon right here. We click that, kind of grays it out, meaning we're not going to take a look at this and provide that as an option. We're just going to fire right over it. That's perfectly fine for the particular scenario that we find ourselves in here. We go back here, let's fire this up again. We had 5 steps previously, now we have 4. Okay, let's just do the same thing. Click Aliso Viejo Aquatic Center. Let's go back to swim team. We have our different swim teams, and let's click advanced swim team now. Okay, it's the same process except minus that additional tracking step we had up here previously. Same thing for beginner, intermediate, etc. Okay, so sometimes, well, in this particular scenario, we've used this weekly class calendar layout because these are ongoing classes. They're taking place every week at the same time. So it makes sense to display it in this format. But some classes are going to be short-term. They're not going to be ongoing. So, such as the example for Junior Guard Prep. When we click Junior Guard Prep, we've fired over that step 3 right there because Junior Guard Prep might not utilize that particular step. So here we have time-sensitive classes, but they're listed in our weekly class calendar format. Maybe that's not what we want. Here it says Junior Guard Prep April 13th through 23rd. So what we want to do is display this in our table format, which is more human-centric for temporary classes. So let's go back into our display preferences here, and up at the top we'll notice a heading that says Use Table View For. So if we add a bit of criteria, we want to use the table view for, let's specify category 1 that equals Junior Guard Prep. Okay, if we add additional criteria, we could go ahead and add that here now. You know, I don't know, category 2 equals, we could say Junior Guard again or something. It's up to you guys to determine what categories correlate with which categories. That's not too complicated. We don't actually need this right here. This will do just fine for our example. And if you wanted to add more separate criteria, you would just click this plus icon. Let's save that. Okay, that's been saved. And let's go back over here. Let's fire this up again. You can see that's loading. And let's jump into Aliso Viejo Aquatic Center. Now let's go to Junior Guard Prep. Okay, So now we have a table view as opposed to that ongoing weekly view. And this should echo out what we've set up previously up here in our table. So this should look just like this. We have our name, our ages, our start date. It should use our category 2 under the name here. And it says sign up like we've specified here. So that's exactly what we see here. Now this might have a little bit more padding than or space around the different cell options in our table than this particular example, but that's based on styles that have been added by this particular theme. So that's not all in regards to the class filter. So you may remember that we added little bits of extra information to some of our categories, such as Junior Guard Prep. It says more info here, and Swim Team it says more info here. So where are we getting this information? In a couple screencasts back, when we set up our categories, let's go back to class category 1. Let's go to Junior Guard Prep. We see ages 6 to 10. This is our excerpt. So that's why it says category excerpt. Just a little bit of information there that might be informative for our users. And then we have our category long text. Maybe we go into a little bit of information about what makes the curriculum for Junior Guard Prep different, for maybe different levels or whatever it might be. Something just to provide the user with a little bit more information to let them know, hey, yeah, this is a class that they might be interested in or that applies to their circumstance. So what does that look like? Let's click this. So we've opted to use a category drawer here, and this is just going to fly out from the side with a little bit more information, and it has this image up here. Okay? It doesn't have to be this particular format. If we go back to our display preferences, there are two separate ways which we can display more information. So in this section titled Viewing More Information, it says if you filled out information for category long text, how would you like to display that information? So there's two options. There's modal, which looks like this, and there is class type, which looks like this. So we've selected drawer here. We can select modal as well. Let's do that. Let's click display, or save preferences. Let's go back here, fire this up again. Alright, and let's jump back in here. We say more information now, it becomes a modal. Alright, pops up in the middle of your screen. Get out of that, go down here, same thing. More information, and close out of that. So that is how, oh, also, one last piece of information here. So let's say the way you have your categories set up inside Jackrabbit, this is your category 1, 2, and 3. Let's say maybe your category 3 is, or category 2 is your instructors' names or something like that, or maybe it's days of the week or something. You could also take this category, category 3, category 2, you could drop it so that it displays in the correct order or whichever order you might like to display it. So instead of it saying select a location, select a class type, select a level, we're going to do this kind of backwards. And this is just for demonstration's sake right now. So let's go ahead and save that. And let's jump back in here, fire this up again. So it says select location. We're going to say this will be our Aquatic Center. And now it's telling us select our class level. And we could say, I don't know, Advanced Swim Team if we wanted. And that just jumps right over category 3 because the way that this organization has done its categories is these levels come after the class types. And that every organization may have done this a little bit differently, or maybe you do it just like this organization. So the best way for these guys is to show their category 1 before their category 2. And we save that, we go back here, fire this up again. Now we have our class types before our class levels. So select swim team, and here are these class levels that we rearranged in the step previous. Okay, so the last piece is you could specify a custom loading GIF if you wanted to be real fancy and maybe put your logo in here, do something cute to look like a super pro. But that's completely up to you. There's a default loader here, so there's no need to do that if you don't want to get complicated. If you want to do that, you can just click select your loader there. So that is how display and order preferences factor into the class filter that you're able to include as a tool that we offer through Action Rabbit. Our next screencast, for the introductory screencast series, we're going to be looking at Class Wizard.